head over to the match, we've got little baby Huey on the left, and on the right, Vinnie Gorman. His version definitely a little more aggressive than some. He's got Scavenging Ooze, Lifebane Zombie, Desecration Demon, Thragtusk, and Disciple of Bolas, plus some Planeswalkers. Mostly the only controlling element of his deck is the fact that he's got, you know, a little bit more than half a dozen spot removal spells, plus Mutilates as a big sweeper.
Yeah, now in this matchup, he does have access to some pretty big card advantage in the form of Disciple of Bolas, which I figured to be pretty relevant in this matchup, which can be pretty grindy.
Yeah, I definitely could see this being a real grind fest here. On the other side of it, though, of course, William Jensen's Rakdos' returns are probably going to be as good as gold.
Yeah. Now I see here, Vinnie's on a mulligan, it appears. Huey looks like he has kept his 7-card hand.
I kind of think the Lifebane Zombie is actually going to be the most important card for Vinnie.
Yeah, so that's interesting. You know, Jensen right now is playing, like we said before, the Jund deck advocated by Reed Duke, which plays no Lifebane Zombies in the main. Now, I know you've probably had the chance to speak with him a little bit about this. Do you know the reasoning on basically they're not adding Lifebane Zombies?
I mean, Huey's not adding it because boss says no Lifebane Zombies.
Sure.
So he's playing no Lifebane Zombie. But why Reed isn't playing it, I think Reed's been talking about it in his articles a little bit, but it just comes down to which things he wants to beat, you know what I mean? And it's something that I think it isn't completely decided yet.
Yeah. In the mirror, though, they figure to be pretty good, which this is very similar to a mirror.
Yeah, it's a twisted kind of soft semi-mirror.
All right.
So here we're going to see Farseek, which is Huey's definite best play early on.
Yeah, he goes on. He has an Overgrown Tomb turn 1 into Kessig Wolf Run. Farseek will set up his mana with a Stomping Ground. Vinnie's deck, despite playing green and having a pretty similar game plan to Jund, doesn't run any Farseeks.
No, he definitely has Lifebane Zombie instead, and they're kind of going to be in this spot where both of them have these big threats, and both of them have tons of answers to all the threats, so they're going to kind of just throw their cards at each other. Now, Disciple of Bolas could completely, tip over the apple cart, and Lifebane Zombie is a nice advantage. On the other side, Jensen's Rakdos Return, as we mentioned, but he also has little ways to gain edges like Huntmaster the Fells, and obviously they both have Thragtusks.
Yes, so we see an Overgrown Tomb from Vinnie Gorman, still no play. Turn 4 will go to Huey with a Blood Crypt, and both players content just passing lands back.
Absolutely. This is very much going to be one of those matches where both sides just kind of throw all their cards against each other, and cards like Mutable and Kessig Wolf Run can make all the difference because of giving you a little bit more juice out of your resource.
So you should figure on turn 5 should be about when threats start getting made, and as we see, Huey makes Scavenging Ooze as his first threat.
Got to get the party started somehow.
Yep, a Mutilate.
Doesn't even bother playing a Thragtusk because everything's just going to die anyway. Why take any damage?
Yeah, a Mutilate is drawn for Vinnie Gorman. It looks like his first play he will be deciding between Desecration Demon and Mutilate, and not even a hint of decision for him. He's going to go ahead with Desecration Demon.
I think he'd rather Mutilate a Huntmaster of the Fells. And besides, if Huey plays a Thragtusk right here, Mutilate does extra work.
Right.
Yeah, and Demon, well, we saw that earlier, the Demon not looking so hot against Aristocrats. It's much more effective threat against Jund, even though they have a number of ways to kill it. They can't Doomblade it, though. They can't Abrupt Decay it, and they can't Pillar Flame it, or Bonfire it, or Mortars it. They do really just have, what? Putrefy and
Tragic Slip,
Dreadbore.
and Tragic Slip,
Yep.
if he can make it
Liliana.
Morbid. Right, so there still are some answers. We saw right there, as you mentioned it, Huey actually drew Doomblade just this turn.
Justice this turn sounds about right.
All right, so he plays land, passes back, and Vinnie Gorman will hit for 6 with the Desecration Demon.
Conley Woods would be proud.
All right, and he follows up with a Thragtusk. So right now, it looks like Vinnie's creature's hitting a little bit harder.
Yeah, interestingly, Vinnie plays another Mutavault so that he has the option of mutilating away the Scavenging Ooze without losing his Thragtusk if it comes to that.
He has right now 3 swamps in play, I believe. I believe those are both Overgrown Tombs.
Oh, he did play another Overgrown Tomb.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Hugh's actually going to go ahead and use the Doomblade on the front half of Thragtusk so that he can Tragic Slip the Desecration Demon. He'll grow Ooze up to a 4/4. Any questions whether he'll go aggressive or just hold it back? Sorry, that was all an end step, so.
Yeah, definitely a nice sequence from Huey.
Yeah.
He's ahead on the board. he's definitely, obviously he's behind quite a bit of life, but as far as if your opponent's going to play Desecration Demon and Thragtusk, you could be in a lot worse shape than what he currently is.
Yep, he's going to go ahead and hit in for 4 with the Scavenging Ooze and is going to start Kessig Wolf running it. He pumps it for 4 to swing it for 8, dropping Vinnie to 17.
So what do you think about that aggressive of a play, considering Vinnie has so much of a presence himself?
Well, I mean, it's really going to come down, it's asking which player's non-basics, I guess, race harder. Vinnie does have multiple Mutavaults, whereas Huey has a Kessig Wolf run. I think right now, the race looks like it swings in Vinnie's favor slightly, but there's a lot of cards the players could be having in their hands which turn the race around.
Yeah, and actually, like, it would have been real bad for Huey if he would have tried to rely on the Scavenging Ooze to block, because it would have just got eaten by an Abrupt Decay. Right. So he very wisely gets in the damage while he can. Hopefully he doesn't go all in, hopefully if you're a William Jensen fan anyway, he doesn't go all in on another Kessig Wolf run, Bash.
Yeah,
right now he will be time walked.
Yep. He looks like he has multiple Bonfire of the Dams right now in his hand.
Well, that's interesting. So Bonfire for 3 not only reduces Gorman's life total,
but takes care of the Beast token.
Yeah.
And Gorman is opting not to Abrupt Decay the Scavenging Ooze. He goes ahead and takes the 4, it looks like.
Interesting.
And then post-combat Bonfire
I think he's
going
to Abrupt Decay it right now, though.
Yeah, puts Gorman down to 10, and now he'll Abrupt Decay.
Yeah.
What do you think he was waiting for there?
I think it's one of those, he was just so hung up on the idea of getting the Kessig Wolf run that he just waited too long,
Okay. So we see a Guild Gate drawn for Gorman. He also has his own Scavenging Ooze drawn.
The Scavenging Ooze is big for fighting the Bonfire plan, if he's got enough creatures. It looks like right now he can only get it up to a 3/3 though. But the extra life could potentially matter a lot. It's got Thragtusk though. I think Thragtusk is the better thing to present to the board. It both helps with the race and presents the most presence on the board.
So right now it really looks like Vinnie's the one with, he has a lot more threats and a lot more options right now. We know that Huey's last card is a second Bonfire.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things are going right for Vinnie. If he's got another land, he decides to play Scavenging Ooze, which I think is a little bit, he's slow playing it a little, but I think you're supposed to just play the Thragtusk there. Either way, though, Huey needs to draw something that produces some action. Like an Olivia would be great, Thragtusk would be acceptable, even Garruk would be passable. He's got to get something going pretty quick. Otherwise, those 2 Mutavaults are going to win in a hurry. Yeah,
so Vinnie used that turn to hit with 1 Mutavault, putting Huey down to 7. He does have Scavenging Ooze with 2 up, and before it can get too big, before there's another creature in the graveyard, it looks like Huey's going to go ahead and cast another Bonfire for 3.
This puts Gorman at 8, and he loses his Ooze.
And passes back. You see here another Mutilate drawn by Gorman. He now has 2 Mutilates. Huey has no creatures.
But he's on a 2-turn clock with these Mutilates just attacking each turn. Thragtusk does come down. Still has him dead on board next turn.
Right.
Plus Gorman's life total at a much safer 12.
Alright, so passing back, Huey's going to need to have an answer here. He draws into, we will find out in a second. Alright. And it looks on 4, we're going to get a Huntmaster of the Fells.
All right. I mean, not great, but it'll play. At least he can beat the board. Not beat the board, but at least he can survive another draw step.
Right.
Assuming Gorman has nothing.
Yeah, Gorman right now has a swamp count of 3, so he can't mutilate away the tokens anymore without taking out his own Thragtusk. He could mutilate and hit with Mutavaults, but probably more aggressive than he needs to be.
Yeah. Yep, I think he's got to decide right now. Does he just want to attack with everything? Does he think Huey will block the Thragtusk with both? More likely, Huey will just eat the 2 Mutavaults and drop to 4. So it's possible he actually just mutilates anyway.
Right. So
to force the, because the Mutilates aren't doing anything in his hand anyway.
Yeah.
This way, it's like he's forcing his Thragtusk to fight the 2 2/2s, which lets the 2 Mutavaults get through. He can't let the Huntmaster live anyway.
Yeah. So he's gonna go ahead and do it. Yeah. He mutilates through both the tokens, killing his own Thragtusk, and swinging for 4, putting Huey down to 5.
Huey really needs a Thragtusk right now. Is there anything else that even... Alright, so, I mean, he kills one of them.
Yep. So I don't know whether he took the damage. Yeah,
Yeah,
he
he's
didn't
still
take
at
the
7.
damage there. He's at 7.
So he's not in that bad of shape. Any creature right now would be at least passable. Particularly with that Castic Wolf run making it a little more threatening.
Right. So he has a Farseek in hand and 1 unknown, maybe another Castic Wolf
Yeah,
run.
it looks like another land. But he has to Farseek because he wants to make sure he has as much mana as possible in case it comes to a Bonfire or Rakdos' Return or even Olivia.
Right. That said, he's on a 2-turn clock. He's probably going to get... It appears that he's going to get dropped down to 2 life on the next turn, which means he'll have to have an answer for both the Mutavault and the Beast token.
Yeah, which basically means either Huntmaster the Fells, Thragtusk, Scavenging Ooze. Actually, does Scavenging Ooze even do it? Are there enough creatures in the graveyard?
I believe Huntmaster is the only creature in the yard. That actually, so it does it, but not in, he'd have to trade it with the Beast
it
token.
just buys him another turn.
Yeah. So he drops to 2 here. Gorman draws another Swamp, still has that Mutilate, but no more threats to commit to the board.
Now, Olivia would do it, but he
gets
not.
neither.
So we are on to game 2 with Vinnie Gorman's black-green The Rockin' His Millions deck, taking a early lead over William Huey Jensen. Coming out of the board, the black-green deck's got Underworld Connections and Vraska if he wants, more alternative threats. Possibly Liliana the Veil, but more importantly, he's got Duress. And do you think there's any chance he brings in Demonic Rising?
So Demonic Rising is something that's just started to see play in these decks. It's rare out of Avacyn Restored. And, it seems like to me that in a really grindy matchup, that's the kind of weapon he wants. Demonic Rising at the beginning of your upkeep, I believe.
You get a 5/5.
You get a 5/5 if you have exactly
one creature.
If you have exactly one creature. So it lets you, as long as you have 1 threat stick, then you can get a second one. And it's at end of turn.
Yeah, which is very relevant that it's at the end of the turn because as a result, it interacts favorably with Mutavault.
Right.
Otherwise, the Mutavault trick wouldn't work. But Demonic Rising, a very good way to counter somebody who has lots of spot removal.
Well, when I think about a match where it's really grinding out there, so we kind of saw in that matchup, it was like the last fatty standing was the one that won. Demonic Rising seems like a really good card to do that with.
Absolutely. Plus, you can definitely afford to trim some of this. Like for instance, you're not going to want Abrupt Decays against Jund. You need a certain threshold of answers to be able to deal with Olivia and the occasional Huntmaster, but for the most part, you do not need as much removal as Vinnie starts with. Now, what's Huey getting out of the board for this particular matchup?
Well, Huey has, if he wants to grind, he has an extra Rakdos Return he can use. He has his own Underworld Connections. Outside of that, he could I don't think he has anything that immediately sticks out. He has an Acidic Slime, which he could use. I'm not sure that this is where he wants it.
No.
It's certainly, you can deny off a land. It can take out a Mutavault and then trade with something, which isn't the worst.
I don't hate the extra Rakdos' return. Like, I think their matchup's going to be slow and grindy enough that just being able to Rakdos' return somebody for like 3 on turn 4 or 5, or for 4 on turn 5 could be real good.
Yeah, I think anytime he can resolve a big Rakdos return is a very strong move for him. So he will want to play more of those.
That said, he really doesn't. You're right. He does not gain very much out of this particular.
What do you feel
sideboard.
about Liliana of the Veil in this matchup? We see 3 in Williams' sideboard. We had 3 in the main deck for Vinnie.
Well, the discard ability of it is not that great in this matchup. Like, your cards are about as powerful as theirs, and it's not like you're emptying your hand. The Edict effect, though, could be passable. Like, he took a beating from that Desecration Demon last game. If he had had a Liliana in that position, he would have been loving it.
Now, do you like the Edict effect from Huey's side? I like the Edict effect from Vinnie's side, but when Vinnie has Mutavaults, does that hurt the Edict effect?
So I actually like it better from Huey's side. I think that Liliana against Huey doesn't really do a ton because, like, first of all, he doesn't have that many creatures, and second, the ones that he does have, you don't want to Liliana, Thragtusk, or Huntmaster, and hitting an Ooze isn't like a great deal or anything. I think Olivia's the only one you really want to, and by then, it may have already done its work. Whereas I think that Liliana against Gorman is much more effective because of the ability to hit Desecration Demon. Yes, occasionally you're going to get stuck with a Mutavault there, but Now that said, I think that Huey doesn't have like a bunch of bad cards or anything, so it's not clear what are the ones he can actually afford to shave. One thing's for certain, Doomblade is going to be making its way out.
Yeah, Doomblade seems a little underwhelming in the matchup.
I actually think that he was going to probably take out his Abrupt Decay also, just because, well, it can deal with a Liliana. He doesn't care that much about a Liliana, and the Abrupt Decay does not. That's not the right weapon against somebody with Thrag Tusks and Desecration Demons.
Yeah, is there merit to keeping it in for potential Underworld connections?
Yeah, that's true, and Scavenging Ooze even. It's still a, it's still a passable card. Plus, you do need some answers to Liliana now that you can't Legend Rule it.
Yeah. All right, so see how both players have boarded for it. Huey will be on the play this game. He down, losing the first one.
Snap Keep. Gorman goes into the tank.
And
Comes out with a Snap Keep.
Yep. All right, easy enough. Gorman looks like has gone for Duress in this matchup as well.
Absolutely.
And you'll see that Dreadbore, Huntmaster, 2 Farseeks, a Bonfire, and a second land. So this is a pretty good keep for Huey, right?
Oh, for sure, for sure. And I think that like the default card here, of course, is to take a Farseek, just because Huey's mana is a little bit shaky. However, depending on the texture of Gorman's hand, he might take that Dreadbore.
Yeah, I mean, if there's 1 Farseek, you almost certainly take it. When there's 2 Farseeks, it's a little less enticing to take.
Yeah, still, it's definitely, you have to have a real good reason to not take the Farseek.
Yeah.
You're certainly not going to take the Bonfire. But that that Dreadbore, it's possible Gorman's like, I just don't want you to have a great removal spell.
So interestingly, actually, I'm interested that Huey is kept in the Bonfires. He has, I mean, maybe not, he has 4 in the main deck. I don't know if he's kept in all 4. The card seems a little underwhelming in the matchup.
Yeah, I think he may not know for sure what he's up against, but I definitely do not love Bonfire of the Damned in this matchup.
And he's going to go ahead actually and take the Dreadbore, so he leaves Huey with both Farseeks.
Now, his plan is to Duress again next turn, so he'll probably take the other Farseek then, but I think he's just deciding, he's like, okay, well, what if Huey drew another Dreadbore? What would I want to do next?
Sure.
I would want to take the next Dreadbore.
He can't, because you can't keep your opponent off a Farseek, taking a Farseek there, I think, is actually pretty bad, because
well, it depends.
It gives you more, it doesn't hinder your opponent in that way.
Well, it's just a matter of what Huey could potentially draw next turn that would cause you to change your mind if you're planning on taking both. Like, for instance, would you still want to take the Farseek if Huey draws a Garruk or something?
Or Rakdos return.
Yeah, Rakdos' return.
Yeah. And so he's second play, yep, does look like a second Duress from Gorman.
Commits Mutavault to the board. Duress probably taking Farseek.
Yep,
as Bonfire, just not super effective against the rock.
Yeah, and the fresh drawn card was a Woodland Cemetery. So he's going to get to leave.
The Huntmaster is going to hit the table next turn.
Right, so he's going to need an answer for that. But outside of that, Huey's hand, yes, Huey has a Huntmaster, Huey has the Kessig Wolf run in play. But
So
that's going to be his game plan.
He does take the, he does decide to take the Bonfire of the Damned.
It seems like his strategy, what it looks to me, is that he already sees that Huey's going to play a turn 4 Huntmaster. And if he's already going to do that, how concerned are you, about a turn 4 Farseek, or a turn like Farseek at this point in the game maybe isn't as much of a card as Bonfire?
It's possible. It's a little bit of a rough spot for Vinnie, because now, like for instance, we see Liliana not really going to do anything. He's got an awful lot of land. He's got a Disciple of Bolas, which is definitely a few turns too slow for the current setup.
Yeah.
But Liliana is going to hit and then soak up 2 damage from the Huntmaster. What's interesting is that Huey is most likely going to flip. Now maybe Vinnie was thinking, I don't want him to have Bonfire because I don't want him to Bonfire my Liliana.
Right.
But, if we're in this spot where the Huntmaster is going to attack it anyway.
Yeah, it looks like, so Huey shocks off Stomping Ground, and it looks like he's just going to swing at Gorman, use Kessig Wolf Run to pump the Huntmaster to a 4, puts Vinnie to 16, and then is going to go for the Liliana on the flip.
Very nice.
All right, so Vinnie actually
very tight play.
Yeah.
It would have been real tempting to just attack the Liliana directly, but this way he does get more damage in.
So it looks like Vinnie has a little too many lands right now. I think he has 4 lands in his hand and a Disciple of Bolas.
Yeah. What do you think about Vinnie intentionally playing all of his swamps first and hiding that he has a flood of black-green lands? He doesn't need double green for anything, so it's not, other than perhaps the Scavenging Ooze.
Well, what I think he's doing is he's playing toward a possible Mutilate. If he draws Mutilate this next turn, he wants it to be able to kill Ravager of the Fells.
Yeah. Does he have another swamp in his hand though? It looks like he had tons of Woodland Cemeteries.
I think, One's a Guildgate, and I'm not sure if he has another swamp.
Yeah, because if he had an Overgrown Tomb, I think he would play it for sure, just to
Yeah.
prevent the 2 damage.
So we do see Huey draws his card and is a Thragtusk.
So there is the Mutilate that we talked about.
So he hit it off the top.
Yes, but he doesn't have a Force Swamp.
So we'll see, yep, Woodland Cemetery, Golgari Guildgate, it looks like.
He can draw 2 cards by playing his Woodland Cemetery, playing a Disciple of Bolas after activating the Mutavault.
And that he's going to go ahead and go for that. That said, he's a little far behind right now.
Yeah.
That Thragtusk was a huge draw for Huey.
And there's an Overgrown Tomb, so he does have the ability to Mutilate next turn. But the problem for Vinnie is that that Keswick Wolf run pretty much ensures he doesn't have that kind of time, because Huey's going to make his Thragtusk trample this turn, and you're talking about 4, 8, 13. After blocking, Vinnie will be at 2.
Yeah, this is huge.
Oh, Huey doesn't even bother to give trample. He's got something else to connect to the board.
He's drawn something
Is
else.
this another Thragtusk? It's a
Garruk.
Garruk, so yeah, another
So
angle.
he's going to go ahead and immediately draw 5 cards.
Yeah, this is going to be real tough, because now Huey is stocked with a full tank of gas.
Yeah, and I like that play there by Huey. While it's tempting to put Vinnie down to 2, I think he just needs to avoid a perfect storm happening. And in that case, Vinnie could draw a duress for the Garruk, but it's going to be really hard for Vinnie to do anything against 5 more cards.
Yeah, to say nothing of the fact that he has to deal with both the Huntmaster, which is going to flip. So there's going to be a Wolf, a Huntmaster, and a Thragtusk, and if you kill the Thragtusk, there's a Beast. So there's a lot of, all of which are potentially lethal because of Keswick Wolf run.
Alright, so Huey, as a second spell, casts Farseek, passes the turn, and as you said, he's going to go ahead and flip back the Huntmaster.
Yeah, now, Huey only has 8 land, so if he plays another land, in theory you could let exactly the Wolf live, you know what I mean? But that's not a lot of...
That's not a lot of wiggle room to work with.
No.
We see another Disciple of Bolas for Vinnie Gorman. He's going to play the Overgrown Tomb. That's his 4th swamp. It will let him mutilate here, but will it be enough?
So now there's a Beast. Okay, so actually, yeah, the Beast is going to give Huey... Huey could actually only knock Gorman to 1. However, Huey has a full grip, and if he has any bonfires or any other burn,
that'll do it. Yeah, it looks like he also has a Rakdos' Return.
Yeah, that's it.
He's going to go ahead and Rakdos' Return. This is for 7.
And Gorman packs it in.
That actually is lethal.
Yep, and they're heading into Game 3. This time Gorman will be on the play with his black-green The Rock deck.
Yeah. So no huge surprises out of sideboards there that we'd seen. We saw... in the end, I really liked the duress plays from Vinnie Gorman. As you actually saw that second Farseek he left in Huey's hand. Huey never actually got to play it until he'd already resolved that Garruk Primal Hunter. So I think that was like a pretty heads-up play in that, he basically left Huey with a spell that he never really wanted to cast. The Liliana from Vinnie was a little underwhelming that game, as it got a wolf token, and I don't believe Huey bothered to... No, he killed it with the flip.
Yeah. Yep, Liliana, not at its best. As I said, you're not going to want Liliana against a traditional Jund deck. However, I still wonder, was it really better to take the Bonfire over the Farseek? Because, he had enough mana. The Farseek was the extra spell he needed to flip the Huntmaster, and that didn't matter that much, but it is more mana, and as a result, he had enough to Rakdos' Return him. Now, if he had a Bonfire, he could have done damage that way, too. Probably there was just nothing he could do, but the Dreadbore, though, was Dreadbore ever really a factor that game? If he had just taken the Farseek in the first place, and then look at the next hand and took Bonfire, could that have possibly been a better line?
Well, it looks like Vinnie had a control sort of hand, where he had, some Mutilates, some Disciple of Boluses, but he never really had a large threat on the board.
No, I think it might have been one of those spots where it's okay, I have Liliana, I want Liliana to live, so I'm going to kick the Dreadbore and the Bonfire. I'm not sure that the Dreadbore really did that much.
It really seems like it's the creatures that end up mattering in this matchup. It's the Desecration Demons, it's the Thragtusks, it's the Olivias.
I think that game would have been decided anyway when Huey Mind Twisted Vinnie. I mean, sticking the Garruk, actually drawing 5 cards, and then drawing off of it Rakdos' Return, I think that's going to be a game-winning sequence,
huge,
regardless of anything else. But I think that Vinnie, it's real tough because Vinnie had Disciple of Bolas, which is supposed to be his answer to Garruk, but he didn't have any Desecration Demon, he didn't have any, not even a Lifebane Zombie, he didn't have a Thragtusk, nothing good to sacrifice to it. Scavenging Ooze, any of that.
Yeah. So game 3, we see Vinnie shipping to 6. Huey's keeping. Vinnie had a Vraska in his opening hand. We did see one Vraska the Unseen in the main. Maybe possibly a second one out of the board.
I would imagine it probably brings in Nebraska. Like, you got to have some answers to Olivia, and it's a more proactive one that you could actually just play out without getting just stuck with too much removal. Plus, it actually it gives him answers to weird problems, like opposing planeswalkers, possible Staff of Nin, obviously Olivia, as we said, but sometimes just hitting a creature,
Mm-hmm. So we see.
Looks like Vinnie. That's the man who's happy with his 6.
Looking at it. Yep, he's gonna go ahead and go with it.
That's the look of okay. Have the nuts. Stay
All
calm.
right.
Act like you're thinking about mulliganing it.
All right, so he starts on a swamp.
Not sure what the nuts are in a black-green
Swamp.
rock deck, though.
Well, it starts with the turn 2 Sign in Blood, so that's going to undo his mulligan.
That's pretty freaking good. That's pretty close to the nuts. Oh,
Yeah.
and he draws Thragtusk and Duress.
Seems pretty good.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah, things are sunny here in Vinnie Gorman land.
So we see from Huey, starts out on Blood Crypt into Woodland Cemetery. No turn 2 Farseek. We do see in his hand that he has a Rakdos' Return to build up to.
Absolutely.
And I think Vinny's going to know that too. It looks like he has a turn 3 Lifebane Zombie.
Very effective. If this can sneak a Huntmaster or a Thragtusk.
And so Huey's hand.
It looks like it's a Putrefy, a Tragic Slip, a Rakdos' Return, and 3 land.
Yeah, and that Thragtusk, which is soon to not be there.
Yeah. And then one of those land is Kessig Wolf Run, which is important, and he has perfect colors, which is also important. So Huey, not really a lot of creatures left after this particular move.
Yeah.
However, he will be able to kill the Lifebane Zombie. He does have another removal spell in the wings, and he's just building towards a Rakdos' Return.
Yep. So basically, Vinny's just going to have to race land, Rakdos' Return.
Yep. Oh, there's a Farseek. That's the best
That's
card
pretty
in his deck
good
in this position.
Yeah. So now Vinny has one fewer turn to work with. Ideally, he was going to try to fire off the return with 6 or 7 mana in this situation.
Yeah, whenever you can Mind Twist him for the full amount.
Okay, so you'd say don't leave a single card when you can.
I mean, it depends. You have to just evaluate in that situation, but the goal was definitely to Mind Twist for the full amount.
Now, as we know, Vinny also has a Duress right now, so that's return. We saw him draw that off the Sign in Blood.
Yeah, and now that Huey is going to have 5 land next turn, there's basically 0 chance that Vinny doesn't Duress the Rakdos' Return this turn.
Okay, so you don't make the demon and then Duress. You just Duress.
I don't think you can risk it at this point because he knows that Putrefy is just going to hit the demon anyway.
Right.
So there's no point in playing it out now. You might as well Duress first.
Left-hand side of the stage, he'll get you signed up.
Absolutely, particularly if you have Liliana in your hand as well.
Yeah.
I think you Liliana first and then Duress.
I'm not positive that he has another land. He's going to go for Liliana first. He's going to plus the Liliana, and he's not going for the Duress right now.
Well, the good news about this particular line is that the Rakdos' Return won't be able to completely Mind Twist him or kill the Liliana.
Right.
And if he uses the Rakdos' Return, then you know it's gone, and then on your turn you can Duress the Putrefy.
Okay.
So I don't hate this line.
Pass back. So if you're Huey, do you take this opportunity to return, or do you assume that you have one more turn to work with?
Well, if he's got the Huntmaster.
Okay, well then I'll make Huntmaster.
The problem, though, is that if he plays a land and a Huntmaster, he won't have a land for his to protect. Like he won't have an extra land to play next turn.
Which means that and he's gonna hang on to that land so that Liliana isn't as effective against him.
Yeah. Oh no, so he does play the land, but the point is that he has another land in his hand. However, his return isn't going to be any harder next turn because he's going to have to discard that land.
Well, isn't his hand is land is Putrefy Rakdos' Return.
Oh, okay, right. So he's actually going to just discard the Putrefy to Liliana.
Right. So a draw from Gorman. It looks like he drew a swamp for the turn.
Super good.
Yeah. Great draw from him. It's not green, but it's everything else.
The problem, of course, is that Huey's going to get to flip that Huntmaster, and Vinny definitely wants to keep a Liliana if he can. It's not clear that that's really a matter that he has any say over, though.
Yeah, I think he has. Well, he has at least one black-green, one gold spell in there. Maybe a Putrefy, maybe an Abrupt Decay.
But he drew another swamp, and I think that playing the demon is a little. And that's you can't play the Demon if you know he has a Putrefy and another card, right? You have to duress.
Right. Well, you know he has the Rakdos' return too.
Right. So I think that like it's disappointing. Nobody wants to lose their Liliana.
Well,
He is going to lose it because his Mutavault could threaten to block the Wolf, but it'll take. No, it's only going to take 4 damage at first, right? Like 2 from the Huntmaster the first time.
well, there's also Huey does have a Kessig Wolfrun in play.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if Vinnie wants, he can go duress and plus Liliana to get Huey's entire hand.
Right. But the Huntmaster's going to flip, which is going to do 2, and he only attacks with the Wolf token, and Kessig Wolf runs it for 2. So he's going to
Okay.
take 2 points of trample damage from the Wolf and 2 points of damage from the Huntmaster. But he actually does get to keep his Liliana, except, if he takes the Rakdos' return, which he does.
Vinnie discards the Thrag Tusk to the Liliana. He does make the play to get Huey's entire hand with duressing the Rakdos' return, and then he will pass back. So we see what the draw is for Huey.
So this is interesting. Is there something he could have drawn that gives him something better to do than just attack with the Wolf? Because remember, if he doesn't play his card, he's going to lose it to Liliana.
Mm-hmm. So it's like probably something like if he draws a creature or a threat, something like Thrag Tusk, we'll probably see him play that.
But if he attacks, he forces Vinnie to lose the Mutavault, or else
Right.
he'll lose Liliana, and he knows that Vinnie missed a land drop.
Right. So that may be better in his mind. Yeah, he's gonna go ahead and go with that play, and he gets to flip the Huntmaster.
Yep. Flipping the Huntmaster is a pretty big game.
So that actually means even on the block, that he still gets the Liliana, right?
No, he's going to do 2 damage. He would have knocked Liliana to 3. The Huntmaster could have done 2 more, putting it to 1, but it
Right.
still would have lived.
We could have Wolf Runned the Wolf, right? If it was blocked with Mutavault, he could have Wolf Runned it for 3, then flipped the
For
Huntmaster.
2.
He has enough mana. For 2. Sorry. Yeah.
Which is, I think
Yep.
The Thrag Tusk, definitely a fantastic way to advance his board in this position. Vinnie needs a green mana yesterday.
Yeah.
He does play Desecration Demon, which is pretty good because Huey can't exactly afford to just feed it very long.
Yeah, but that Thrag Tusk was a huge draw for Huey. So Vinnie's just going to have to keep pace. He has more cards in his hand. If he can survive till when he gets that green mana, he should be in a good position. If he can Disciple of Bolus, that should be good too. But he has to get to one of those spots.
Yeah, and so much of his game plan right now is tied into that Desecration Demon. If Huey can find an answer, and there aren't a ton of answers. I mean, there's Putrefy and Dreadbore, but Liliana would be real big here.
Well, what about Huey just racing it? Say he starts to swing with Thrag Tusk and Wolf run the Thrag Tusk. Can he choose that option?
He's ahead on board. He can win the race that way. And he has the Huntmaster putting pressure on Vinnie because the Huntmaster is just going to keep flipping once in a while. Like, we're going to see the Huntmaster flip this turn.
Yeah.
Unless Huey drew something even better.
Like another Thrag Tusk.
Yep. And there's that Thrag Tusk like you talked about.
All right, it's going to swing in. I'm assuming it's going at Vinnie, not at the Planeswalker.
Yeah, I mean, who cares about Liliana at this point?
And he's going to Wolf Run it for 2. That'll be 7, knocking Vinnie down to 11.
And effectively 9 when the Huntmaster flips.
So we'll see how much he likes that last card in his hand. Enough that he's going to go ahead and take out the Liliana and giving Vinnie the 2 life.
Yep.
And we see a Mutilate for Vinnie Gorman. That's a huge draw if
he gets another
has a
swamp. Yeah, because the problem there is that even if he draws a swamp next turn, Huey's still going to have a beast left after the Mutilate in order to Wolf Run.
Right.
So,
The swamp needs to be here like this turn, which he doesn't have.
Now, if he draws a Woodland Cemetery or an Overgrown Tomb or something, he can still play Thrag Tusk, which might be able to buy him a little bit of time.
Now he's going to mutilate.
He is mutilating just to kill part of the Thrag Tusk. So now his plan is to block. He's going to block one of the 2 creatures and just accept that his demon is going to die to the Kessig Wolf Run. His hope is that Huey doesn't draw a creature or a removal spell.
Now Huey, that card he'd drawn last turn was Scavenging Ooze.
So that's actually an effective tap of the Desecration Demon.
Yeah.
Which puts Gorman at effective 4 and dead on board.
Yeah.
Which now obviously Gorman could draw out of it, but even with Desecration Demon and Mutavault to block, the threat of Kessig Wolf running whichever the Mutavault blocks is is at least 4 damage, because even if the Mutavault blocks the 3/3 beast, Huey will be able to put it up to 6/3
So Huey's just going to swing the
if he draws a land.
just going to swing Ravager, and he lets it trade with Desecration Demon. And this sets up a graveyard just full of creatures for whenever Huey decides to cast that Scavenging Ooze.
Interesting.
And Vinnie really just struggling for lands.
So what do you think about that play there, though? Trading your Huntmaster for the Desecration Demon instead of just playing the Ooze and tapping it and going beat down. You think it's just safe? He's just being careful?
I think he's just being careful here. Yeah. Vinnie, I mean, I guess like worst case scenario would be that Vinnie drew that Woodland Cemetery right away and slammed a Thrag Tusk. Then that play looks a little worse. The Scavenge, that's close. I mean, I think I still prefer that play. I think trying to keep Vinnie's board clear, if you can get one free Keswick Wolfrun hit in here, that just seems huge to me.
See, I think he's still going to just play Scavenging Ooze this turn.
Yeah.
Attention, please.
And he's got, does he also have Huntmaster?
Yes, he
Jeez,
also
so
has
yes, he might not play the Scavenging Ooze then.
and Underworld Connections.
Wow.
So
So he could actually play Scavenging Ooze and Underworld Connections and
Please come to the main
attack.
stage.
We couldn't tap he'd have to like go fishing for a land with the Underworld Connections if he
Or
wanted
just
to
not
tap
use it this turn.
Yeah, just not use it this turn. He's in a Connections land. He's gonna draw a card. So that play, he's gonna try to fish for a land for that Scavenging Ooze, and he draws another Underworld Connections.
Paging Kirk.
He's got the connections.
So I think what he's doing here is, despite the fact he's ahead on board, he's just playing it safe by grinding out some card advantage as opposed to trying to sneak over that last 7 damage.
Yeah, why make the game very active? Why let it come down to a race of any sort? Why not just choke him under the card advantage, the mountain of it?
And I think especially since he saw Vinnie make that green source, you have to assume that Vinnie's hand, which has been largely doing nothing this game, is probably now active now that he has 5 mana and a green.
Yep, absolutely. So Huey, what are we gonna say? We're gonna see a Huntmaster and Connections to draw cards.
Well, we saw a Rootbound Crag draw on this turn, so he doesn't need to find another land for the turn. I think he's going to activate Underworld Connections every turn at this point.
Makes sense. I mean, that's why else is he playing it instead of
Yeah.
creating more? Although it's funny, he's actually playing around Mutilate pretty effectively.
That's true. Yeah. So he attacks with the Beast token. It could pump once off Wolfrun. Unlikely to see that happen. But he offers the trade with Thrag Tusk. I can't imagine Vinnie's gonna go ahead and take it. Just wants to preserve his life total.
Yeah, remember, Vinnie has Underworld Connections as well. So
Right.
every life point matters a ton, because even though they're both connecting, Huey's got life for days, whereas Vinnie, there's only so much he's going to be able to necro before the necroing has to stop. So
who do you, in a game that's just grinding out, over and over, which deck do you like more?
you're saying regardless of the fact that Huey is already obviously way ahead on cards and
Yeah.
board and life and
Right. Regardless of the board
I still
state,
like the Jund side anyway. He's got reach in the form of Rakdos' Return and Bonfire. He's got he's got more Olivias than Vinnie has Disciple Bolosses, and they can be more influential. He's got Garuks, which I think are a bit higher impact than Liliana or Vraska.
Yeah, it does.
It's close.
It's
It's
close
close because they both have lots of good tools that all just bash into each other. But I like the Jund side by a little bit if it comes to this kind of a game.
It seems like he has a higher number of just kind of big trump cards, like that Garuk and Rakdos Return that you were saying.
Yeah, I think that Lifebane Zombie is supposed to be the big advantage for Vinnie, and we're a little past that stage of the game.
Right. So because of that, what do you think? Vinnie probably needs to try to find a way to get aggressive at some point here, right? When he's, there's that feeling where it's like, okay,
I think he's got to take control because of that Keswick Wolf run and his low life total, particularly with Underworld Connections. I think he needs to try to deal with every single creature Huey plays, because he can't afford to take any hits from any of them. He needs every extra card he can get because Huey's going to be drawing extra cards anyway.
So he is on that game plan. He starts out by putrefying the Huntmaster of the Fells, and Huey draws a card off Underworld Connections. He has another land.
At some point, if he's got, he's going to play stuff like Scavenging Ooze first, I think, but at some point he's going to have to Underworld Connections double up.
Yep, and he's going to go for it right now.
Yeah, okay.
Second Underworld Connections. This game has completely turned into a grind fest, and
I think it was a grind fest from the moment they sat down. But
Right. But I mean, I feel like this particular game, at one point life totals mattered, and then it switched to being about who could outgrind the other one. I feel like Huey did a really good job of recognizing that really early on. You know, he had an option to continue being aggressive, and so he just really sat back and started Underworld Connections.
absolutely. So Gorman gonna have to continue to dig because he has already committed to this line of play. I mean, he can play Thragtusk, but he needs to keep playing the control game. He can attack if he wants. He does have.
Yeah, he has a Thragtusk and a Demon in hand,
Right.
so he has a blocker.
Right. I mean, he's got some decent tools to work with, and he's going to keep drawing extra cards. He just cannot afford to take very many hits.
Yeah, so he draws Sign in Blood there, putting himself down to 10.
So
And
now, has he played a land this turn?
I do not believe so. So he's going to go ahead and swing with the Beast, putting Huey down to 22.
So he's got the option. Yeah, he does decide to Thragtusk anyway. Oh no, looks like
Possibly
he's
not.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
Thragtusking anyway because the alternative was Sign in Blood and Desecration Demon. But it looks like he wants the life total cushion, not wanting to risk getting Rakdos returned into February.
Yeah. I mean, you have to assume eventually that's going to happen, right? Another Rakdos return is going to show up. Huey's drawing 3 cards a turn.
Well, yeah, I mean, he can't wait around forever, but he's got to just play the only attrition game he can. You know, like just keep putting out powerful cards. He's got some big bodies. Hopefully, Huey just doesn't draw any removal.
Yeah, and
because Vinny's not going to win a grinding competition against a player with much more life and 2 Underworld Connections and a full grip.
Yeah.
What
And
he needs is to stick a big threat.
What do you feel about, is this the reason when we said, you know, we talked about Huey keeping in Bonfire of the Damned, your first reaction was, we didn't really like that card, but if a lot of the games in this matchup play out like this, does Bonfire becomes a lot better, right?
It becomes okay. I think that it's also possible that Huey's just playing some number of Bonfire and not necessarily 4, so that if he ends up in a spot where he can just be digging through his deck, he has something to dig to end it.
So it's like right now, for example, like drawing to a Bonfire is good, but in the earlier turns it would have been pretty mediocre.
Yep. So Vinny, with the duress, taking a Farseek, probably just figuring, okay, you know, maybe this is the spot where it makes sense that he could possibly still have Rakdos' return.
Yep. So fishing for one doesn't get it. Huey resolved a Scavenging Ooze that turn, and I believe the graveyards, we see 2 Hunt Masters in Huey's own graveyard, and at least one creature, at least one Thragtusk in Gorman's.
Yeah, we're probably going to see a Desecration Demon this turn, right?
I would think so, right?
Unless he draws a removal spell?
He has to do something aggressive here. That Scavenging Ooze plus Kessig Wolfrun actually poses a somewhat serious clock for him, I would think. Yeah,
because it's going to be big enough that, I mean, how many creatures can it remove right now? The big question
at least
is, can he
3.
Yeah, because if you can get it up big enough, like, I mean, Vinny can still double block with the Thragtusk and the Beast, but
yeah,
Vinny is going to continue the beatdowns.
And so here we're going to see how many creatures. There's a Thragtusk. There's also a Demon in Gorman's yard. We put the counter. The counter's not on the Wolf. It's on the Ooze.
2.
Yep, there you go. 3. And it looks like there's a Lifebane zombie in his yard too.
4.
All right.
So the Ooze is up to a 6/6.
Yeah, and it can get all the
without
way
even hesitating, calls.
And
Vinny's like, shove. And I
Vinny's
think that it's going to end poorly for
just
Vinny.
work.
Yep.
Wow, that's huge. So,
Now at
a
this
bluff
point, he
there
has,
by Vinny, you feel?
yeah, or just not thinking that it was like that Huey would want to play too conservatively. Like I don't think he. Oh my gosh.
Fortunately for him, he hits the Abrupt Decay off
Yeah,
that
but
Sign in Blood.
that just goes to show if he's really going to attack, he's supposed to Sign in Blood first, just in
right.
case things go sour.
So he's going to get the Scavenging Ooze off the table, but not after the first half of his Thragtusk was eaten.
Yeah.
And getting it will come at the cost of him making Desecration Demon this turn.
Yep. He's doing the math, trying to figure out, is there any way I can justify just playing the demon instead?
Yeah,
There's not.
I don't think so.
And he can't let Huey untap or he'll just gain more life by using the Ooze.
He'll gain more life, and then he'll Wolf Run the thing and hit him with it. You know, the Ooze was a 6/6. With one more creature, becomes a 7/7, and Gorman can't even.
Well, he has Abrupt Decay either way.
Right. Okay. So he has Abrupt Decay.
Yeah, but what I mean is, you don't want to let Huey untap and try to get greedy and steal his mana that he uses on the Wolf Run, because
Right.
Huey's a smart cookie. He'll save the mana and gain a couple extra life out of the graveyard.
So we get the Abrupt Decay. Right now, Vinnie Gorman has two beast tokens in play, just has the Desecration Demon left in his hand, and Huey's starting to really bury him under a pile of cards. Huey's out up to a 6-card hand, I believe.
Wow. Well, there's Underworld Connections biting the dust because of an Abrupt Decay. This means at this point, Huey's just drawing 3 cards a turn to Vinnie's 1.
Right.
Vinnie still has a couple good plays, but he's going to run out of gas real soon. He needs to mount a pretty serious offensive, and he needs to get rid of that last wolf.
Yeah, and I think he recognized this as he's activating Mutavault and swinging the whole team right now. You know, Huey's at 23, so he's got to make a dent as soon as possible.
Yep, so 2 beasts getting in there. Huey gives up the wolf, just trying to preserve his life total playing the control game. Desecration Demon hits, and now Vinnie is mostly on the plan of, well, hopefully he doesn't draw a removal spell.
All right, so passing back over to Huey, we have him untapped. He's right now facing down 12 power on the board in the form of 2 beasts and Desecration Demon, but he has...
Wow, Dreadbore.
Yeah.
The actual Nutter Butters, as Michael Jacob would say.
So it goes on to 16 to draw another card, and that one's going to be Acidic Slime.
Wow, it just continues to... I mean, Acidic Slime, not insane, but it is another creature that is a good blocker potentially, but more importantly, it threatens lethal because of the combination of Death Touch with Overwhelm, or Trample.
Right. So he's going to start out by Dreadboring away the Desecration Demon, and then with his remaining 5 mana, he's going to go ahead and make the Acidic Slime. That Mutavault is gone now, so he's just going to get a dual land. He takes away Overgrown Tomb, and lowering the swamp count, presumably. Plays on Overgrown Tomb tapped, and passes back. So,
Another Desecration Demon. Not a bad draw. I'm going to try to make a game of it.
No, it's about as good as he could hope for right now.
Yeah, I mean, there is, like, if Vinnie attacks with both guys, if Huey does decide to block, which is an important play for Gorman because of the potential for the Death Touch, Trample interaction to
Ladies and gentlemen, we
plow
have
through
5
anything.
players who want to play some modern.
And
They've already
what I
signed
like
up for
here is
modern
Gorman, as
contests.
a heads up,
We
is
just
not
need
playing
3
that
more
swamp.
people
Right now
who
he
are
has
interested
5
in
swamps
playing
in
some
play.
modern today.
I kind of like
Come
that
on up
and
to
for the
the
potential
stage.
mutilate just to
Side.
make sure you don't drop that 6th swamp.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably not going to come to that, but it's still a smart play, just smart thinking.
All right, so 2 extra draws from Huey. He is getting a lot of lands, but also gets a Huntmaster of the Fells. That puts him back up to 12, essentially paying for those 2 Underworld Connections. I think he has at least 4 lands, maybe all 5.
Now, he doesn't really, Huey actually, even though he's got a lot of action and he's got tons more cards, he doesn't have an answer to the demon yet. If he doesn't produce an answer in the next couple of turns, he does have Putrefy. Well, why?
That's
gosh
huge.
darn.
Yeah,
Well, gosh diddly darn.
that's going to be pretty big.
Magic players, that is time
So,
round.
Vinnie,
Magic player, finish your
it
turn.
looks like, did he draw a
Additional
Mutavault or
turns.
another?
I think he
Regular.
drew a Mutavault this turn, so now he has Swamp Mutavault remaining.
God, that doesn't stop Okesic Wolf Run from just cleaning his clock.
Yeah. There is a little bit of a time crunch going on here, so Huey may have to get a little aggressive. That said, I think he's just fine.
Oh, yeah, no, he'll be fine. Yeah, like right now,
if he
1,
wanted to,
2,
he
3,
could
4, 5,
swing-
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So he's threatening lethal right now. If he's got lethal unless Gorman has an instant speed removal spell.
All right, so he's gonna go ahead and swing the Wolf token. See if it trades for Mutavault.
So he's gonna make him have it.
Yeah, he's drawn Garruk Primal Hunter for the turn as well, so he's really taking care of most of Vinnie's.
The question is, does he just go for the win, or does he play the Garruk? I think he goes.
I'd play the Garruk. He's been playing it safe so far.
So
but
just a tiny little bit of damage. Just get a little bit of damage, enough so that you still better
Yeah.
leave 3 green if you're gonna do that though.
and he doesn't leave 3 green.
No,
yes,
no,
he does. Oh, the Underworld Connection's up
Is
there.
it on
on
Rootbound
green.
Craig?
Okay, no, he has a 3rd green in his hand. He hasn't played a land yet for the turn. So he goes ahead and Wolf runs it for 5. He's going to put the Overgrown Tomb into play tapped and flip Huntmaster. That'll deal 2 more, putting Vinnie Gorman down to 5 with just that 3/3 in play. His draw is
Another
another
swamp.
That won't do it. It's time winding down here. Vinnie's going to pass back. And Huey draws twice on end step, finding more resources, and should be able to mount a lethal this turn.
Yeah, without even committing very much of his mana, so that even if Gorman has like a Putrefy or something, he can still drop a Garruk.
All three of his most recent draws, I think, were just 3 more lands. But nonetheless, this should be enough. And
Extends
there we
the
go.
hand. A hard-fought match by both players. William Healy Jensen taking the win.